Welcome, friends and family, to another episode of the Backdoor Cut Show, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast brought to you by the Barn Burner Podcast Network, which you can find on iTunes, Spotify, all those cool places.
Q.
Yeah,
K-U-W-L.
By subscribing to the Barn Burner Podcast Network, and you can also check out all of our articles on the-barnburner.com. I am Zach. Tonight with me I have Mason and Sam, and we're going to pass around the horn, talk some Grizzlies hoops, and I think we'll probably revisit Sam's selections for the rest of the season if I know how this will go. How are you guys doing, Sam? I'll start with you.
I'm good, man. Had a good day of relaxing in the beautiful warm weather. Memphis is slowly but surely turning spring. Had to work a little bit, unfortunately, but got a chance to walk the dog outside, and it's a fantastic day here in Memphis. Kind of started negatively, though. We watched the Tigers lose to Houston and fully blow up their potential for an at-large bid in the NCAA tournament. So now we got to win the AAC tournament to have any chance of getting that automatic bid. Now, I wouldn't put it past them, but at the same time, we don't shoot the ball well, we don't make free throws, and we turn the ball over at a high percentage. So the odds of us winning 4 straight games in 4 straight days is not great. I think we're a 6 seed, which to my knowledge, I think you all are saying we play first. ECU, and then Tulsa would be probably who we play.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I like those 2 matchups. I like those 2 games, and we'll see where we go. But other than that, good day. We'll say have a quick comment in the chop it up with the chief corner that I like to begin the show with, and that is people that stand up in rows in sporting events and then leave and make everyone else get up. If it's like a couple, if the 2 of you are getting up and you're leaving, you need to make sure you come back together. You don't need to come back split, where you make everyone get up, then 5 minutes later, your husband or your wife comes back and make everyone get up again. You just gotta make sure you orchestrate that. Now, if one of you is gonna go get a drink and the other one's not, then the other one just needs to wait for you to get the drink. So you come back together and only make everyone get up once. It is unbelievable the lack of stadium etiquette that everyone has, and I think it's because Zach and I. And my Tiger seats, honestly, too. I happen to sit in areas where people just don't understand how annoying it is. I myself am very aware of not getting up. Like, I'm very conscious about it. I'm very self-conscious about making people stand up. And so I will hold my, pee for an uncomfortable amount of time, or we'll wait until someone gets up anyway and, ride their coattails out. But it's just wild out here. And honestly, like, we need to do a better job in the school system teaching this kind of etiquette. So that's my 2 cents there. I don't know if y'all have any opinions on that.
You didn't even touch on the whole, there's no wiggle room anyway. You can't scoot past anyone.
Oh, this is your thing.
If you just don't move your legs, that means I got size 13 feet and I'm supposed to scoot past you.
Humble brag there.
Through like a.
How big are your hands? Yeah, how big are your hands, dude? Yeah.
If you're on the Periscope of _barn burner, then you can see my hand size.
Yeah. Oh, he's married too, ladies. Watch out.
Oh, that was a humble brag there too. Yeah, so that's my pet peeve is you got to make some effort, even if it's just like moving your leg to the side. That gives me enough room, but don't just sit there and look at me like I'm doing something wrong, because I'm in the same boat as you. I'm not going to be getting up that much because we've had seats on the end of row and we've had seats in the middle. I'd much rather be on the end and be that person getting up and down for other people than be the person in the middle inconveniencing those around me as I have to come and go.
Yeah, I think that would have to agree for sure. Being on the end is definitely an advantageous spot because then you control your own destiny, and we're fit enough to fucking get up. Whereas like certain people that are not of the slender, kind of situation, fat people, they fucking sit there and stare at you. And I honestly, big take, don't think they should be allowed at sporting events. I also don't think they should be.
Oh, shit.
I also don't think they should be on airplanes. I think you should have to pay extra amounts of money to sit in a designated area where the seats are large for a larger person, because we all know that being next to those people fucking sucks. It sucks your experience, and you can't get the armrest, and it's tough. So let's do something about it. And honestly, I don't discriminate much generally, but I feel like this is the last non-protected class. You can hate on obese people still. That's allowed. Bald dudes and obese people. You can those are two select groups of people that you can hate on unabashedly. And maybe people come after me on Twitter, but as Omar said, you come at the king, you best lose some weight.
Damn, Larry, that was some harsh ass shit.
Okay.
Woo.
Yeah.
What
Just be polite. That's all I have to say. Just be polite and considerate.
It is true. It is true. That is true. I think the obese thing is when you sit next to someone and don't get up, as it is often as the case, or you don't shift at all, or you take up more room, on horizontally than another person would. That is in fact not considerate. Is my take. Like that by virtue of your size, like it's inconsiderate to everyone around you, and like that. Just be aware. Just out here spreading knowledge.
I got a bunch of questions, but I don't think I want to ask them. I don't know how deep we need to dive into that.
I mean, I think exactly. Like, I mean, there's you don't have to be a psychologist to figure this out, man. Like, but the facts are the facts, and so here I sit. If I ever get fat, you can fucking hate on me so hard. You can roast me unabashedly.
Well, so speaking of roasting unabashedly, the Grizzlies
good transition
started the week with back-to-back 39-point wins for the first time in NBA history when they beat the snot out of the Hawks in Atlanta and then Brooklyn in Brooklyn. And we were underdogs in both of those games. So that was a great start to the week. And then we fell to Dallas, and then we beat Atlanta, of course, on Saturday night at home. 3-1 on the week now, 32-32 on the season, sitting right at 500, still 3.5 games ahead of whoever's behind us right now for the 9 seed. What are some of the takeaways you had this week, Zach?
This week, really the hard-nosed defense, I think, was a really big – really was a spotlight for the guys. So if you look at points allowed, Lakers, I know that's creeping back into last week, gave up 88 points. Same to Atlanta with, Rocket, superstar, awesome man, Trae Young, but that the Grizzlies shut down 2 games in 1 week. And then the Nets only giving up 79 points to them. So those were 3 really, really good defensive games from the guys. And that's something that's really been evident since the trade deadline. The defensive side's really been a focus, especially with the shooting really calming down. Guys like Dylan Brooks really coming down from flying high through the month of January. And then we ran the Dallas was just
crashing.
Yeah, it went down quickly.
Just on like an escalator or nothing.
It wasn't gradual. No, it fell off. I don't know how many ways we can describe this, but we haven't been shooting what we were shooting.
Sharp decline, so to speak.
And then the Dallas game was kind of a welcome back to reality of we are a young team, and we're a young team without 2 of our better players, and faced up against a good team. Dallas is a good team, especially on offense with Porzingis and Luka would fire on all cylinders. They're a really tough team to play, and they beat the snot out of us on Friday night. But then, the guys bounced back in Vince Carter's last game at the Forum on Saturday and showed out and, I think had the Hawks from wire to wire, and that was kind of the trajectory of the week. It was mostly impressive with a small blip on Friday, but I wasn't too worried about it just because Porzingis is a matchup nightmare. We knew that going into it.
Chief said it in the text thread.
Valanciunas, that's a nightmare for Valanciunas. He does not move his feet out of the paint on defense. On offense, he'll come out there above the break, occasionally take a 3, but on defense, he's not coming out of the paint at all. And he got toasted when he was on Porzingis. I think he hit like 4 or 5 threes, and then just couldn't contain him.
His ass was jumping all over the place, trying to keep up with Porzingis. Looked like somebody just pressing a triangle on like PlayStation, like on 2K. He's just jumping, like hoping and praying he touches the ball or something.
Yeah, that was tough to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a lack of effort. It's just
No?
not in his repertoire.
Yeah.
And what really hurt is when obviously giving up those threes to Porzingis. It felt like he had so much more than his like 26 points that he had. It seemed like he was on pace for like 40.
Yeah.
And maybe it would have if the game wouldn't have gotten out of hand. But JV couldn't make him pay when we had the ball. Not a real big scoring night from JV. So when you're getting torched and not making up for it on the other end, if that was a playoff matchup, I think we would be questioning, should you start Gorgie or even Kyle at center against that team?
Yeah, I think that would be one of those coaching adjustment type deals where you might have to throw in a wrench. Try something out that you haven't done normally, isn't your standard protocol, but based on the matchup, could be beneficial for you.
Yeah, and another thing about that game was Dylan came out jacking shots early on. He had like 13 points in the first quarter, but he probably had 10 or 12 shots. And I think we had a lead early into the second quarter, and then the Mavs kind of went on their run. But I thought Dylan's offense to start the game, it just really got us out of a rhythm. And maybe it was everyone else's fault because the team didn't really play with any force or any energy. Like they'd never imposed our will on the game. So maybe Dylan felt like he had to go ahead and be assertive right there. But I just thought that first quarter, although even though we had the lead, it just really set the tone for the rest of the game. Just no offensive flow.
Yeah, it got me thinking that maybe they had planned to kind of lose it. Not to say that the team would ever come out and not try, but it really did seem like they were betting on, if there was to be a back-to-back, that they were going to take the Hawks game at home instead of leave it all out there during that game. And of course, if they end up outplaying Dallas, just like out there hooping, then so be it. If someone has a crazy good game and you just sort of ride that wave, that's fine too. But once they started to get blown out, they didn't just like lay down. I don't want to say that we're like some, like the Hawks, for example, that are kind of just get the shit beat out of them quite often. And it's creating that Verno's dreaded non-competitive atmosphere in locker room. It wasn't to that level, but I don't know. Maybe there's something to that. They kind of circled that. Yeah,
that's what I think too. We just got handled.
And then
and to speak to the big performance, Seth Curry was cooking us in the first half. He had 15 before he got hurt, with still some time to go in the first half. So
who was guarding Seth? Was it Ja?
I don't remember. I think it probably was Ja.
Because I imagine Dylan was guarding Luka.
Yeah. And
then it probably was. So that may be something to monitor is Ja's matchup, whoever he's guarding. You hope to hide him on someone kind of like they do in Atlanta. He's not as bad a defender as Trey by any means. He's still long and athletic, but Seth Curry probably shouldn't be going off like that. He's not.
Yeah,
that kind of player.
He's been playing
great, well.
So,
yeah. It's been a combination of both. The thing that I listened to Pete and Brevin talked about during that game, and it got me thinking. And I haven't really done like a significant amount of thinking, but I figured I'd crowdsource y'all. Is they talked about like the Dallas being a pretty long team, like a long and pretty mobile team. You've got Porzingis, who's the prototypical stretch five or whatever. Is the unicorn, can do everything long and can step out and shoot threes and can dribble the ball as well. And so that gave JV problems, we discussed. But also, from the 1 through the 5, they really have length. And you're throwing out like Justin Jackson out there, and just like long, athletic, like wing guys. And the Pete and Brevin seem to hone in on that as something that the Grizzlies have issues with this year. And so have you noticed that with other teams, kind of what's this team's Achilles heel? Obviously the Lakers, Anthony Davis kills us, but he kills everybody. He's like kind of, he's just really fucking good. So you can't really count him. But teams like that, I think, kind of give us problems more than the average teams. Then you would think, by the opposite, you would think the Rockets we would do really well at. Once it became a track meet and like we could feed JV, he should be able to take advantage of the mismatch because we can, when half court, we kind of play a inside out style basketball, but then they handled us too. So I kind of wonder what the true Achilles heel of this team is. But this week it was a tale of two, it was 3 blowouts and 4 blowouts, 3 of which resulted in wins for us and, 1 that didn't. So I don't really know what to make of this week. And I don't really know what we do well and what we don't.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you mentioned the Mavs' length because I went back and watched all 6 of Ja's turnovers from that game, and 4 of them were on interior passes, whether he was trying to get it to JV or Gorgie or someone like that, and they just stole it. and that is due to their length. And so that is something that we struggle with against LA too. Obviously, they beat us by like 30 early in the season, but I think if this team comes out and defends and sees a couple shots go down, they can play with anyone, especially when we're at home.
Yeah.
We're still susceptible to a road ass whooping, as we saw in Dallas. And quite frankly, we lose in Dallas a lot historically. It's just not a place that we've won a lot. I remember going to a game there. We got beat by worse than this during the Core 4 era. So it's just not a place that we win at a lot. But I don't know. That's an interesting, like, what is – our kryptonite, and length makes sense because you can put a longer person on Ja and not give up size with Dylan, and Jaren's long, and Valanciunas kind of struggles with the lanky type of guys like Porzingis.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, length probably is our biggest, thing we got to look out for, figure out how to overcome.
What about I guess my follow-up question to that is if length is really – and length kind of hurts everybody. That's not like unique to us, but it hurts younger players, I think, in particular, because that often the length turns into turnovers, when you're dealing with the rookie point guard. So who of like the Kings or the Trailblazers, the Pelicans, the people that are creeping up on our 8 seed, who of those are kind of like our kryptonite? And I know we play most of them multiple times from now on. Except for the Kings. We play the Pelicans and the Blazers. I think we actually pretty good matchup with the Blazers because they don't have that length. They start two pretty standard sized guards, and who are in fact their best players. And then when they sub their guards, they got Anthony Simons, who's even smaller than Ja. So I don't think any of them just a super plus defender either. So I think that's maybe why we kind of do well again. And I'm trying to think Ariza, who's elderly, is kind of their best defender, who they call in to be their lockdown guy. And I mean, Jurkic is not a notable defender. Whiteside's a supposed eraser at the rim, but I mean,
JV can take care of him. Really.
Yeah, as we've seen. So I'm okay with them, which is why I think we get one on the road. But the Kings, I don't know what it is about them, and it might be that link. You got like Harrison Barnes. You got like, I'm trying to even think of these rosters, but you get my point. Is like, and the Pelicans
Giles.
How do you like deal with Zion? You don't, and like Drew gives us buckets, and Drew's a good defender, so he probably guards Ja, and that's probably kind of part of the problem those games. But anyway, I'm just talking now.
No, I agree with you that even dating back to the days when LaMarcus Aldridge was in Portland and we had Zebo, it seemed like we always had Portland's number for whatever reason. Pelicans right now are probably the one that I'm worried about the most, just with people trying to figure out Zion, and I don't think we don't have that figured out yet. Of course, we'll see him a couple more times and see how that goes, but I mean that's just really tough. Do you force him to shoot the three because he's he'll nail those in your face? I don't know exactly what he's shooting, but it's a respectable amount that you can't just like totally leave him wide open. And if Sacramento's going to continue on this trajectory, that's also kind of bothersome. But it's hard to predict because they haven't been that team over the past few years. So are they going to be able to push through the last quarter of games? It's tough to say, but I think of those three, Portland scares me the least.
Which is crazy because they have the two most established players of those three. But yeah, there's something about it. And of course, it's been a down year. But what were you about to say, Slim?
I mean, any one of those teams is going to have to do something that they have yet to do so far this season, and that's go like 13-8 to close out the season. And that's tough for these teams. They haven't won at that rate all year. That's why they're where they are in the standings. So I think the Pelicans are the biggest challenger. But we don't play the Kings, so we don't really have a say in that because they already beat us 3-1 on the season series. So that's done with. We can't, if they're winning, we can't stop it. But we do have 2 games against New Orleans where really in those games against the Pelicans and Blazers, you just want to at least split them so they don't gain 2 full games on you. The Pelicans beat the Timberwolves today. They lost a game that they weren't supposed to the Timberwolves earlier in the week. So there's no sign that they're capable of making this run. They have the talent, sure, and in theory, yes, but they haven't made this run yet. Granted, Zion's 25 games in, but still they haven't done it yet, and you're into like the last 18 games of the season.
Dude, he's only 17 games in. How crazy
Oh,
is
really?
that? Yeah.
Damn.
He's only played 17 games. Which the only reason I know that is because I saw a bunch of people saying he's 8-9, and despite everyone's best efforts, he's playing great. But it's not like the team's been they don't really know how to use him yet. I think. I mean, he's basically their best player, and so to have a guy come in as a rookie that's never played before and then immediately become your best player is on a team of guys that have played in the league for a while now and probably have some level of confidence and I belong here sort of deal. And Brandon Ingram's an all-star this year, first time all-star.
And they were rolling playing through Ingram there for a minute. That's probably their best stretch. So if they can figure it out, they've got a chance. But I mean,
they should be the 8 seed. If I'm totally honest with myself, if you shot me with true serum, pursuant to their talent, and
the schedule. They have a favorable schedule. Yeah. The easiest in the league, and we have the toughest. So, and I think a key for us is we need Jaren Jackson Jr. back as soon as possible. And
Justice and BC as well. I think they're all kind of scheduled to come back at the same time. And I've heard this week sometime. So Berno was saying the Magic, but I don't know.
Seems like they're being a little less optimistic about Clark. They upgraded. They upgraded the statuses yesterday, I believe, before the game. And Jaren, it seemed like he's coming back this week. Justice probably not far behind, but they said Clark will be reevaluated again later. So, and then they said Grayson's injury officially was a hip displacement, which that does not sound good. Just seems like a tough injury to come back from. My wife's in the medical field, and she said, it's not a easy injury to rehab for anyone, much less someone trying to get back to playing NBA level, which sucks because Grayson was really playing good and brought something to this team that we needed: a floor spacer, ability to knock down the open three and get out and play on the break, and he was playing good defense.
Yeah. I mean that's a older guy injury. That's your 40s and 50s, and
it's when did it happen?
Yeah, I don't know. That's probably he has family history and of hip issues kind of deal. His bones rub together just by virtue of his body makeup, and that's the reason it's uncommon is because it's probably something genetic.
Look like his bones rub together.
Hey, he'll kill you on Call of Duty though, man. He's out there, got an insane kill rate. He still posts video. That's when I realized he's 23, is he's still posting Twitter videos of him like mossing fools and on COD. But whatever, dude.
I mean, I guess he can't do much if he's got a broken.
Yeah, shit, you're right. I'll play you in Halo 3 though. I saw a Conchar and who's the other white Udoff?
Yeah, Jared Utoff.
Yeah. Saw them at Catherine and Mary's last night. They were breaking bread after the game. I said as they walked in and I was walking out, said, "Nice game, fellas," and they said, "Appreciate it, bro." So we're boys as well. Cool. Me, Tyus, and Udoff and Conchar. So just if you guys ever need anything from them, let me know.
I'm glad to know you're the go-between.
Yeah. So
speaking of the injuries and Jaren coming back, I wanted to roll through some things that I found out today online in the statosphere, as I'm calling it. So since Jaren's been out on he went out on the 21st against the Lakers. So since the 22nd, the guys that have led the team in usage rate are Dylan Brooks at 28%, Josh Jackson 25%, and John Morant at 24 and change. Their three-point percentage, DB's been shooting 29 since then, so we know he's still slumping, not hitting near those numbers that he was earlier in the year. Josh Jackson, very respectable, 33%, and John Morant's been shooting 44%, and I think we saw that on display Saturday night against the Hawks. He hit 3 or 4 threes, really helps to spread the floor out, really helps himself when he's able to do that, force the guys to come out on top of the screens instead of under them. And that, I mean, if he can develop that level or that aspect of his game, I assume that will be a big area of focus for him this summer. So when he comes back in the fall next year, I would expect that to probably be even more developed than it is now. And he's shooting well. He just doesn't have super high amount of attempts. His rate is not super high, but his percentage is very respectable from 3 so far. Boards per game since Jaren went out, JV is averaging 15 rebounds per game, and that's something that I've highlighted before, is that he does struggle in certain matchups against stretchy fives, but even against those guys, he's cleaning up the glass.
Yeah.
And without him, he is by far and away our best rebounder, and I know that he might not be super versatile on both ends of the floor, but his ability to grab those rebounds and kind of hold the paint down, at least in that one facet, and help us out there, it seems to be very impactful. And those games where he is able to score 20 to 30 points, which happens fairly often, that opens everything up for everyone else. So he still has found a way to carve out a niche for himself on this run and gun, high 3-point attempt team. And then a couple guys behind him.
In rebounding. He's been fucking cleaning up, and he beat Zebo's record. Last week in the 2 games combined, he had like 50-something boards. That dude's been cleaning the glass.
I'd like him to shoot that 3, man. Like, he pump fakes every time at the top of the key. And I feel like if he just stepped into that shit, it'd be probably a better shot. But I know that, it's usually early shot clock, and he always gets, anytime we're running down the field court, he always stops at the top of the key and it takes the pass, and usually dribble handoff to Ja to get the action going. But he always pump fakes. It's really funny. I think Zach pointed that out, and now I notice it, and it's like the weirdest. Like, he goes on his tippy toes, and like it's like the pump fakes. Like yeah, it looks like he's on a roller coaster for a second, and it's doing that dip thing where it's a zero gravity. But it's just a funny element of his game that I'm not like mad about. Not like Kyle standing in the corner and not shooting, but it's just a funny element of JV. But you're right, he's rebounding the shit out of the ball, and something this team is sorely lacking before him. But he's been great. You really can't ask any more of him other than maybe shoot that shot a little more.
Well, and he was shooting it early on in the year. It seems like he kind of lost confidence when a few didn't go in, and now he just kind of abandoned it completely.
I looked to check if those games where he made 2 or 3 of them, if we won or lost, like how that affected the outcome of the game. The answer is we actually lost the majority of the games that he made 2 or 3 threes in. So
Wow.
you would think that would open up the floor and just kind of create a better, more fluid offense for the rest of the game. But it was 60-40, probably losses anytime he made more than one three. So I was surprised to see that. But yeah, I don't know what that means. That kind of goes back to my thing, is I really don't know, like, if someone held a gun to my head and said, like, name like the things you're so sure about with this team. Mine would be like Jaren Jackson's shooting seems to be here to stay. Ja Morant's finishing around the rim when he can get there. That's another thing I would say is a net positive and something that's consistent. But other than that, like, who's consistent? Doing anything in particular? Dylan has the occasional really hot game, but the occasional bad Dylan game. So that I'm striving to figure out. But here we are. We're 8th seed, 500.
The bench has been pretty consistent. To be
right,
fair.
there you go. That's another thing. Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that. So since Jaren has been out, the Grizzlies bench has scored the 6th most points, averaging nearly 46 per game since he's been out. So you got to think that it means also Brandon Clark's out for the majority of that. He only played 4 minutes, I believe, the night after Jaren went out. And that bench unit, something I thought that was interesting, is that they are really embodying let it fly. They've got, out of all the bench units, 3rd in 3-point attempts. Now they're shooting only 33%, which is 20th among bench units in that time, but they're not afraid to shoot. Like those guys, Tyus is putting it up.
You heard me? Tyus Stones. You hear me?
Yeah, he might be. He's like, Jackson's putting it up. Those guys are not scared, and they're really doing what they really bought into what Jenkins has going on. So I think that just, that means that the culture seems to be working in the game plan, and they've been by far like way better than the starters compared to other bench and starter units. The starters are 26th in points scored, 26th in 3-point attempts over that course of
This
time.
is since Jaren's been out?
Yes.
And how many games is that?
That is 9 games. The Grizzlies have gone 4-5. Of course, that includes a 4-game loss streak, then a 3-game win streak, and then a loss and a win.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of you got to have a lot of optimism about that bench unit, especially when Brandon Clark all he does is fortify that unit.
Well, and Melton has been starting.
Yeah. So yeah, you're short. A couple guys that have been bench staples all season have now been moved into starter roles.
You got Johnny Conch in there, baby.
His numbers are actually have been pretty good for like from analytics state.
I mean, he's been good from an eye test too.
Yeah, his offensive rating, he leads the team in that time frame of guys over 100 minutes. He's got a 114 the team has a 114 offensive rating when he's on the floor.
I don't think you could have told me that he would play over 100 minutes this season, and would be, in the hunt for the 8th seed or leading by 3.5 games at this point.
Yeah, definitely. And then
he had 10 rebounds. Last night, he had 10 rebounds.
Yeah, he's always engaged. He's always doing something. And not to steal from Melton, I'm not trying to do that, but Conchar's out there and he's busting it. I think it was it this week? It was. It might have been in Brooklyn when Josh Jackson tried to throw Conchar like 8 alley-oops. Yeah. You guys see that?
They were trying to get their hustle fix in.
And they were all such bad passes. No, I don't think any of them worked. Maybe one of them
throwing them off the rim and shit.
It was ugly.
Like a Memphis Tiger pass to Precious Achua in the post. Shit just sailed. But speaking of which, Josh Jackson, D'Anthony Melton, as a patron saint of those former Suns, Barn Burner Slim, I give you the floor. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to talk about your boys. Hell, I'll give you 5.
I don't know if I got that much in me, but
you did do a great plus minus analysis of Josh Jackson, small forward.
Yeah, so I mean, I watched those guys after we acquired them, and I saw that Phoenix fans loved Melton in the limited role he got to play last year, so it made me watch some film and read his draft prospects and stuff. And I mean, he just needed a bigger opportunity, and he finally got it after being injured early in the season in training camp, and he hadn't let go. And I love players like that, like make the most of their opportunity. And then Josh, he underperformed in Phoenix. You can't deny that, but basketball is like, it's not just, you can't just grade it on, he was the number 4 pick and he's never going to be the number 4 pick, so he's a bust. He may not ever live up to that hype, but he still can be a very valuable basketball player. So now it's about focusing in on, okay, what are you good at? What can you be elite at in the NBA? And how can you help my team by doing those things? And I think that was why you saw Tony Allen join the hustle when Josh Jackson was still there. I mean, you ain't seen a picture of Tony Allen at a hustle practice since Josh Jackson's been called up. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that was a clear mentorship type role for Tony with Josh. And maybe it's just because the team realized that they have a chance to make the playoffs this year and could potentially bring Josh back. I know Chris Harrington was saying how limited those options are because we declined his player option. And I'm not well-versed enough in that to know exactly how much we can offer him or if we'd be interested in bringing him back. But, Tony, I think, has told him to focus on defense, and we've seen him making defensive play after defensive play, whether it's ripping the ball out of someone's hand or doing a great double team and forcing a turnover or just getting in the passing lane. And he loves to play in transition. And if he buys in on the defensive end, he's got all the physical tools to be a plus defender and make a strong impact on the game that way. The 3-point shooting will come. I think he was like 1 of 7 or 2 of 8 over these last couple of games, but he's still having a huge impact on the game, and him being willing to take that shot versus someone like Kyle who won't. The defense has to respect it, and it opens up so much more for Tyus to get to the rim, D'Anthony to get to the rim, or Ja to get to the rim. So now I'm going to get into these stats from Cleaning the Glass on my boy Josh Jackson. Lineups with Josh Jackson at small forward for the Memphis Grizzlies are in the 96th percentile of the NBA. He is a plus 11.5. And there's only one net negative lineup out of the 8 he's in that he's played more than 15 possessions with. Offensively, as a team, the Grizzlies average 115 points per possession when he's on the court, and we're only giving up 104. So the numbers are ridiculous. Obviously, we had those two 39-point blowouts, so these could be a bit skewed because of those, but he was a big part of those. I mean, he scored 15 points or more in the last 4 games, so it's really having an impact. And then with Melton, you look at the numbers with him and Tyus on the court, and they've been playing together basically all season. They are in the 98th percentile of duos for the entire season in the NBA. So that just speaks to how good that bench unit has been. And then you add Josh with those two, and the 3 of them are in the 99th percentile of trios in the NBA. And they played 133 possessions, so not a whole lot, but enough sample size that you know they're pretty damn good when they play together. And as Zach, you mentioned, they get up and down the floor. That's why they're able to get so many 3-point attempts up, because they are a fucking flash. So that's my little Melton and Josh Jackson appreciation time. I appreciate you giving me that, Chief.
Yeah, man, that was good. And I think that whenever they come in and it's that lineup of Tyus, D-Melt, and Josh Jackson, I feel very, very happy when they're in the game, and I don't feel scared that we're going to lose the lead. And in fact, we usually push the lead further if we have one at that point. So honestly, it's been our starting lineup that has performed quite poorly, even in some of these blowouts. That we've seen. We saw, in fact, the first 2 games, the Hawks at Atlanta and at Brooklyn begin where no team looked like they knew what they were doing. 1 of 8 starts, and like a lot of trouble scoring, no one finding their rhythm. And then the bench comes in and settles the ship. So it's a unique situation, and one that I'm not sure we've ever been in, especially during the Core 4 era, where every backup point guard that came in, except for like Bino, I remember, and even then, he was prone to the occasional like, "Whoa, bro," Yeah. But now it's like they come in and I'm like, "Oh, hell yeah!" Like now it's time to make a run, which has got to be uncommon. But
yeah.
Also, the one negative lineup that Josh is in, I don't think it's due to Josh, and it's worrisome. It's like a lineup that I would have thought would be very good.
The one Brandon Clark and Gorgie.
Yeah, Brandon Clark at the 4 and Gorgie at 5 and Ja at the point guard, and I think D'Anthony Melton at 2 or Dylan at 2. But it was like that was like kind of like what I would envision a lineup being. Like if Gorgie, if we keep Gorgie and kind of like JV don't play JV as much, I could see that kind of being a future lineup. Granted, Jaren would probably be in there, but
and here's my thing with Milton. We talked about how the starting lineup has struggled since he's been in it, basically, and maybe he just needs to be playing with Tyus. Like if their numbers are that good and him and Ja aren't really clicking. Milton did finally hit some shots in that Hawks game. I think he hit 3 threes, but
he's got a good shot. I mean,
in the Dallas game, he gave us nothing.
Yeah,
and I mean, he's not a starting caliber player yet, so you can't expect him to produce in that role every single night. But I don't know. I'm between him and Kyle, who like Milton. He's just not a volume shooter. That's not what he is. And maybe you think about putting Josh in there if Jaren doesn't get back soon.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. So if everyone's healthy, are you Ja, Dylan, Josh, Jaren, and JV?
I like Josh coming off the bench just because he is like that ball of energy along with those other guys. Like I really don't want to break up that unit coming off the bench. So I think I'd probably play it safe and keep Kyle in there. What about you, Zach?
Yeah, Josh is fun coming off the bench. He's like that wild card. He's like Charlie Day, and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He's just go out there and wreak havoc, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And usually, so far, it has turned out well for Memphis. Outside of the first few games where they were trying to figure it out, since then they've played well with him out there.
Well, and just to be honest, like we're not invested in him beyond this year, so it's kind of hard to see what he is in a bigger role. And I mean, obviously, the plan is Justice gets back and we can just start him, and then
that's true.
Problem solved.
That's true. Yeah, Justice is theoretically just way more skilled Josh Jackson.
Yeah.
They was knocking down the 3 at a consistent rate before he got hurt, and can run the floor, guard the other team's best player, handle the ball. So that's what they're betting on anyway when they made that trade. Also, Iguodala is sucking it up in Miami. His minutes have apparently decreased every game since he started playing. which is not what you want, as the kids say. And then also,
They gave him $15 million for next year.
and again, is he even really a good mentor either? I mean, he showed his ass to all of us here, but maybe he's great in the locker room if he wants to be there. I don't know, but he
It's not
seems
like
to
they
have,
had young people in Golden State, really. You know, it was
Right.
all vets.
That's true. And, pointing out that it really is a goofy fit. We didn't care because we were just getting rid of him. But if you think about it, the Heat don't shoot threes. Like they start two guys. Their two best players aren't notably good 3-point shooters. And
Jimmy's been bad.
Yeah, and he's never been a good 3-point shooter. But he hits big threes, but he's not like a good shooter. So you do have to guard him. But yeah, I mean, then Bam too. He can hit a three, but he's not known for that. So then you throw in, Iguodala, who might, as we're finding out, might only be effective when he's playing with the two best shooters in maybe the history of like basketball.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought? I think we're going to see a lot of guys leave the Warriors and be total bums. Maybe Draymond eventually. I don't know, but
Miami won today. They beat Washington, so they only scored 100 points. Not a lot to write home about.
yeah.
So they beat Washington, scored under 100 points.
Washington scored 89. Yeah.
Wow,
Damn.
that's tough.
That is.
Phoenix put up 140 on a Giannis-less Bucks. Then, of course, we had the Lakers and Clippers Sunday afternoon game. The Lakers won that. So there's some good basketball. OKC held on to beat Boston in Boston. OKC's fucking tough, man. You don't want to play them in the first round, no matter who you are.
That would suck. What are they now? They're 6, right?
Let me pull it up. I think so.
I know they're ahead of Dallas, so I assume they're the 6. The
OKC's 5. They're ahead of Houston.
Oh shit! So who's the 4?
Jazz. So it'd be OKC and Jazz.
Jazz are losing that.
Don't want that, man.
Dude, no. Like they're 100% going to lose that series.
Yeah. The Jazz have won 5 in a row, but you just feel like they're.
Oh, I just don't believe in them at all, man.
Donovan and Rudy, man, there's something about those two.
Yeah.
Something off between them.
Yeah, and Ingles been playing terrible this year.
Yeah.
Who's your fantasy boy, too?
Yeah, I dropped him.
Fantasy basketball.
I was
clear.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I hung on to him all year, and then I just had to drop him. I was like, I can't stand for 6 points a game anymore. Can't have it, man. It's not going to get me to the finals.
It's Mike Conley's fault, I tell you.
Yeah. So another Woj released today that the Grizzlies signed Jonte Porter, who is the little brother of Michael Porter Jr. And so he went undrafted, had to do a little bit of digging. I was kind of familiar with him, but not super familiar. So he played 2017, 2018 at Missouri. He was SEC Sixth Man of the Year. He was on the all-freshman team. He's 6'10", 6'11", good outside shooter by all scouting reports. He shot like 38% from 3, something like that. People questioned if he was super in shape or not, but he was a top 50 prospect coming out of high school. They said he wasn't totally ready physically. I guess that's why he probably wasn't starting at Missouri, but he was projected to be kind of a late lottery pick. But he has had a lot of injuries. Tore MCL and ACL, I believe, are the injuries that have been released about him. So he's still rehabbing. He didn't get drafted. So we picked him up to add some front court depth. The way his contract's structured is that he's not expected to play this year. So we're just paying him whatever's left of the minimum. We're just paying him, and he's on the roster. And there is a team option for next year. So I guess the plan is to see how he does in his rehab, and then hopefully he can join us next year. Kind of maybe in that role that Tolliver's playing right now, because you assume he won't. He's not someone that you're going to be keeping on the team at 35 years old. But right now you don't have to pay Porter much, and you're just kind of taking a flyer on him, seeing if he does have some glimpses, down the line of what people thought that he could be. Similar to his brother, who had the back injury, sat out a whole year, and then started playing, and he's been pretty good this year. So it's a calculated risk by the Grizzlies. If things go terrible, then they don't have to take his option. So what do you guys think about that?
I have literally no opinion on Jonte Porter beyond what you just said. I mean, that's all I can know, and I doubt he even plays at all this season.
No,
Yeah,
he
obviously,
won't.
yeah.
It's it's like a glorified training camp invite. So we bring him in for the rest of this year so we can rehab him, see actually how he is progressing. And then we go into the summer as he, assumedly gets better and can do on-court work, and you take him into camp and you see what you got. By all accounts, he's a skilled big man that, like you said, he can knock down the big shot. He's not necessarily a rim protector or anything like that, or necessarily like super mobile. So I don't really know what to expect, but that was just the one quick synopsis I read from his draft report. But they said he probably, like you said, would have been a first round pick. So in a year when we're not going to have a first round pick, and I don't mind taking this flyer at all. It was Jared Utah's spot, no disrespect to him, but
yeah,
I didn't really get the opportunity. It doesn't seem like he's going to, shatter any, NBA records or anything. So it's cool.
A low risk move, doesn't cost very much. His option next year, number I found was $1.5 million, so barely hits you at all in the pocketbook. Crazy that you can get that much money for, if you think about it. He's on the books for like $200K the rest of this season, and he literally won't be playing. But
yeah, it's cheaper than a first round pick. So
yeah, very true. I have a little nugget on Dylan Brooks.
Nugget us.
So right now he has 999 points this season. So with his next point, he'll score 1,000 points for the first time in his career, his 3-year career. In his rookie year, if you'll remember, he played every game. So he played 82 games. He only scored 898 points. So he was, a little over 100 points shy of this mark. And he'll get, assuming he does score in the next game on Tuesday against the Magic, then he'll get his 1,000th point in his 65th appearance this season.
On how many shots? What's the shot difference? I wonder.
I don't know.
Not to poop. I wouldn't. I'm not trying to poop on him, but I just wondered if you'd actually. I'd kind of be curious.
He's taken about 5 more threes per game. His minutes per game are pretty close to the same, but yeah, his shot attempts are definitely way up. Also, find you someone that talks about you and likes you as much as John Hollinger likes Dylan Brooks.
Hollinger loves Brooks?
He loves Dylan Brooks.
Because he drafted him.
I've heard him mentioned on multiple podcasts, and then he tweeted when he guarded LeBron well the other day. He was talking back and forth with Harrington about him. Yeah, he's proud of that pick, definitely. That's a good pick. I think that was a good
diamond
job.
in the rough, yeah.
Yeah, he's a second-round pick. Yeah, like you love that.
But I'm onto you, John. I see that. But good job. Thank you.
I enjoy having Hollinger back in the media. He's got good takes, and he's always got some little quirky, funny things.
Dylan on the season is a 11.1 PER, which is not super efficient. However, he has a one game win share, so that's great. But that's uncommon for a player so young in terms of his career to be legitimately contributing to winning at the degree that he does. So. He doesn't do it efficiently always, as we can all attest. But you can't lie that he buys into the system fully and he plays really hard. So I always respect him when he's on the floor with the occasional lapse of judgment that he has.
Yeah, that game last night against Atlanta, he was 4 of 15, but he was all over the place defensively, wreaking havoc. So it's nice to have a guy who can score but still bring that same type of intensity defensively, even when the shots aren't falling. And it seems like Kyle was a little better. Maybe it's just one of those games where shots were falling, but it seems like ever since you went on your rant about him not shooting the corner three, it seems like he's shot it a little bit more. He still does that pump fake and slow dribble in, but
he has since that rant, no doubt. Coach Jenkins probably went on the same rant to him somewhere, either in the locker room or in a team meeting or somewhere that probably a little meaner than I even said it, or at least however Kyle likes to receive things like that. And he has been shooting it. You could tell there's not that extra thought. And he, to his credit, he can knock it down sometimes, and that's the best shot. That's the best shot. Like even if you're not a great 3-point shooter historically, if you're wide open, in the shortest.
And the clock's at 5. You gotta shoot.
Yeah, and the shortest part of the court too. Like while you might shoot 25%, you might shoot 40% from in that scenario, and that's great. So he has played better, and he's also, someone pointed out, I don't remember if it was a tweet or a Pete and Brevin broadcast thing, but in my brain I'm remembering that someone pointed out that he's cutting a lot better. That if he's in situations where he's not just standing in the corner, because if he's going to just stand in the corner, he has to shoot that ball, and he clearly doesn't like doing that. So if you're not going to do that, then you need to, make cuts or something, like when Ja drives in. Granted that he's kind of cut, their defender's usually cutting off the cutting angle, and that's the entire purpose of being out there, is to face the floor. But he seemingly played a little better. I still don't really understand what he's going to do for this team in the long run.
Yeah,
because I think he's best, as I said before, coming off the bench as your backup point guard and leading that second unit. But now we have Tyus, who's like fantastic.
Tyus Stones, baby.
You hear me? He had a Josh Jackson shout out as well recently.
Yeah,
I didn't see.
JV.
Oh, did you get JV last night? Oh, okay, good.
So, we still lead the league in assists, which kind of surprised me with our offensive struggles. We were like right there with I think it's Phoenix and New Orleans are the other teams that have more than 27 per game.
Really? That's surprising.
Yeah, and I was like, that's not, doesn't seem great.
Yeah, you don't, not the company you want to be around necessarily.
And we're 8th in the league in field goal percentage, which is pretty good. We're 7th in pace, so you think we're getting up and down, getting a lot of shots up. 8th in pace. I think we're like 16th in turnovers, somewhere like that. We're 16th in defensive points per possession, so just below average. But we're 10th in defensive effective field goal percentage. So that's good, man. I think the defense is going to be our calling card, especially with Jaren. And we just got to figure out how to mask JV as much as possible. Basically, what the Bucks do is what we do. Like the Bucks will let you beat them from the mid range, and we will let you beat us from the mid range. So Chris Paul, guys who can get right there and knock down that 2-pointer all night, they're going to give us trouble. Luka, presumably.
Yeah, you'd like to see though a little bit of adjustment. I understand there's no reason when
and now we have the ability, like the players, the personnel to should be able to avoid that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason when a guy's coming in like Kawhi or Chris Paul who live in the mid range now and have figured out that that's actually like they shoot 60% from there because no one's guarding it. Like you got to make a little adjustment, or else you're just going to lose that game for no reason, just because you were so stubborn. And it's not like they're going to forget how to play their normal defensive scheme just because that one game they have someone come out and guard the 17-foot. But I don't know. I really no complaints about this year. I mean, we very much exceeded expectations. So John knocked down a bunch of threes in the Atlanta game too. Notice that he was like 4 of 4 from 3. Yeah. So they were sagging off of him, and he was making him pay. His if he get a little more consistent, man, he'll be unstoppable. Like, obviously, if everyone could do what he does and shoot, then you're Steph Curry, right? And you're unstoppable. But that I can see it happening, is what I'm saying. He's only 20 years old, and it's not like he just like is a can't shoot at all. Like who's like a notably Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, or like a what I'm talking about. Like,
it was like he went through like a week and a half where he kind of thought that, though. He was like, I can't shoot. And then he just started shooting again.
It's weird because he's an extremely confident player. But I think he's worried about, breaking 4 threes and being the reason for a loss. I don't know. I mean, of course, like, why would you not worry about that? But it seems like shooting's all about confidence in the league. Just ask Dylan.
Irrational confidence guy. Gotta have him.
Yeah. Any other thoughts?
We've been D'ing up the last 5 games. Our defensive rating is a 95.6.
Wow.
Shit, man.
And we've been shooting 38% from 3 as a team. So that's a pretty good combination. If we keep doing that, we'll probably keep winning.
And they're good shots, too. It's not like we're hitting these wild, like Dylan's the only guy that's going to like take a ridiculous ass, like stop the ball, shoot a 3. But otherwise, they're good shots. It makes sense. High percentage. What we got this week? We got a Magic on Tuesday. Take us through the rest of the week, Zach. You have it pulled up?
We got a Magic on Tuesday at home. I think we all are hoping for a win on that one, right?
Yes.
They did just beat the hell out of Houston today, and they got some players, but you'd like to think at home we just come out with more force and impose our will.
Mm.
Thursday we go to Portland. We start a 3-game road trip. What'd you mark that one? That's the toss up. You're not sure.
So Thursday, I marked it as a loss.
Okay, so that's at Portland. Zach, how you feeling about at Portland? They got Dame back.
I was just bragging about how we have their number, but we've beat them twice this year already, so it's hard to beat anyone 3 times in a row, especially one on the road. So that feels like could be an L.
I think we would win that one. Then we got a day off for traveling to Utah. We play the Jazz on Saturday in Salt Lake City. Notoriously tough place to play. What you got, Chief?
I had a loss on this one. And by the way, I had this list last week, and I'm 3-0 thus far. So we'll see if I keep going,
Yeah. Zach, how you feeling about the trip to Salt Lake City?
I feel good about that one. I think the Grizzlies get a W there.
Oh, okay. And then
I think we have Jaren back, and he shoots a million threes and makes most of them.
Yeah, I have a loss there. I basically my approach was not super ridiculous. I just picked us to lose against good teams and picked us to win against bad teams. And I figured that at some point, right? Yeah, and I figured at some point we might beat a good team and then drop one to inevitably. And my ultimate record from them was 10-11, which is exactly what we needed to win to get into the playoffs if we do what I've predicted. But lost to the Jazz.
So your prediction gets us to what, 41 wins?
I think it was 40. I think
40?
from when I made this, or maybe 39 actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so we closed the week Saturday with the Jazz, and then on Monday we're still traveling. We're in San Antonio, and then we come home Tuesday for a second night of a back-to-back against OKC. So really, I think 2 of the 3 on the road, Portland and San Antonio, that's teams who are coming for us. So those are huge games. And really, we should be in a position to win those games within the last 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I have us beating the Spurs, but
yeah, we don't. Unfortunately, Memphis plays, like you mentioned, Dallas is notoriously challenging for us. San Antonio is a very tough place for Memphis to play as well. They're not going to be happy after Ja helped upset them early in the season on their home court. So I'm sure they're going to be coming for us. And we had that big game at home against them that put us into the 8th seed and kind of got all this momentum started. So I'd have to think that they're not going to be super happy, and they're going to show out that game.
Yeah, so this week the 3 games are Orlando, at Portland, and at Utah. So you hope for 2 and 1, I think.
Yeah, you got to be 1 and 2 though. You got to beat Orlando, and if you lose that game, then you got to beat one of those road teams. You got to take care of business at home, as we've seen this team do. You don't want to put yourself behind the 8 ball like we saw at the beginning of that losing streak, by losing to the Kings. So Orlando, big game, and Zach and I will be in the building, I believe.
We will. Also, a big week in college basketball. You need to make sure to subscribe to the Barn Burner Podcast Network for the Theater and College Hoops Basketball. Theater and College Hoops Basketball. Come on, man. Theater and College Hoops Podcast from our guys over there in the Titch crew. They're awesome. Make sure you check them out. They've been waiting all year for this to bring you guys coverage of the conference tournaments, and then we have Selection Sunday coming up. So it's Christmas time for those guys, and so you need to check them out on the Barn Burner Podcast Network.
For sure.
Shout out Titch.
All right, well, thanks for listening to another episode of the Backdoor Cut Show. Until next time, go Grizz.
Peace.
Peace.